into the game of the week, the rivalry that is known as just by those two words, the game. The Michigan Wolverines traveling down to Columbus to face the Ohio State Buckeyes. Both teams 11-0 on the season. Ohio State is a 7.5-point favorite. Over-under is set at 56 points in this game. Both teams coming in almost feeling like they're both limping in here. Blake Corum only getting one carry in the second half last week in a very tight Illinois game. You've seen Travion Henderson for Ohio State in a walking boot at the end of Maryland game. Mayan Williams didn't even dress. This is a scary game for me here, Fresh, because this game is always interesting. But now that both teams are 11-0, both teams are looking at getting themselves to Indianapolis. Both teams are looking at, they win this game, they're almost a shoo-in to go to the college football playoff. And Ohio State's at a spot where they're not used to. They have to get some revenge for last year. That has not happened in quite a few years, that they're coming off of a season that they lost to Michigan. I got my thoughts here, Fresh. I'll leave it to you, though, first.
Well, first, I'm confused, actually, because you sent me an email that said the best game of the weekend and Big Ten, and then you put ... Indiana, Purdue. So why are we talking Michigan, Ohio State? I'm just kidding. Yeah, this has been the game I think everyone's had on their radar for 11 and a half months, maybe even full 12 months, going back to events that occurred in Ann Arbor during the Saturday Thanksgiving weekend last year. We knew that the Big Ten, it runs through these two programs, and even this year, even if anyone had come from the West, we didn't see the winner of the West having any competition against either of these teams when they had to face Indianapolis. These are the two juggernauts, and they have gone through the ups and downs all season long and have really shown that they're very resilient. Now, when I say ups and downs, I think Michigan has dealt with the shadow of what happened in the Orange Bowl last year and the rumors of, can they actually compete? Are they truly elite? They lost a lot of players. Are they the same team, or it was just a one-year wonder? This year, they've steamrolled just about everybody they've played. They've had very few blips on the radar, much less competition. And it's not because they played terrible teams, it's because they've actually attacked, dominated from start to finish. You've seen Blake Corum go from being the 1B running back to 1A Heisman candidate, and really taking over and being the focal point of that offense and making sure that this team gets it done. You saw McNamara get benched. We all thought, well, maybe McCarthy. Is he actually better? Is McNamara better? McCarthy and McNamara, in my opinion, have been the same guy. They have been absolutely fantastic, but they haven't been terrible. They've been consistent. They move the football. They keep the offense in good situations. And defensively, they haven't missed a beat. They have played just as great. You don't have the names of Hutchinson, Ojibwa, and Hill in the defensive backfield. You have a collective unit of guys who are getting out there, getting sacks, getting tackles, getting off the field, not giving up points. Their rankings, their stats, there's a reason why they're there. They do their job. But this is the biggest test for that Michigan team, top to bottom. On the other side, Ohio State, we kind of worried. With all this talent, can they stay healthy? Especially in the first game, JSN got hurt. Haven't seen him play all year. Which of those receivers are going to step up and show that they could actually thrive in the offense? I think we figured that out, that they're going to be just okay at the wide receiver spot. Marvin Harrison and company have connected really well with C.J. Stroud. Running back situation, it was supposed to be Trayvon Henderson. He was supposed to be the guy. Yeah, he's had some issues with health, but he's been off the field. Williams has stepped up and actually taken the reins, but then he's had his health issues. And then last week, we saw the third-string running back take over and do it just fine. They have depth at every position. They can get it done. And that's been, I think, the biggest thing is getting to this point healthy and getting this game ready to play. Defensively, we didn't know what Knowles was going to bring. We saw what he did at Oklahoma State last year. What was this defense going to be like when they showed up this season and played? They've played great. You've seen vast improvements every single week, whether it's tackling in open space, which getting pressure on the quarterback, forcing turnovers, limiting points. They're a top 10 defense, and they've shown it week in and week out. And I think that's the one thing that they didn't have last year that was really the biggest difference when they got beat up in Ann Arbor, is that the Wolverines ran the ball down their throats. Um, I don't know if it's supposed to snow or misty rain or whatever's supposed to happen this week in Columbus, but I think if the weather does come into play, Ohio State's better suited offensively and defensively to handle it. But Michigan's going to need all the help they can get to run that football and play who they are. The keys to the football game, though, Ohio State, you there's no more excuses for being pissed off. We heard it all about Michigan ducking you in 2020 and then losing last year. I don't think anyone wants to hear the story of like, well, we're mad and we blew opportunities. This is your chance. You're at home. You have a better defense. You have a veteran quarterback and receivers. It's a chance to get it done. You have to play at your pace. You need to dictate the football game. Last year, Michigan dictated to you. They put it on their pace. They ran the football. They let the weather turn nasty, and it became a downfall in the end. This week, you've got to come out throwing and running, high velocity, high pace, stretch the defense, put the pressure on them, and score touchdowns early. Take that running game out. Michigan, in my opinion, still hasn't shown they can throw the ball to win a football game. If you put this game up 10 or up 14, you put them out of reach because they cannot score fast enough. That's what you have to do. Play it on your terms, score fast, score early, score often, and show that you're a dominant football team. We saw it leading into the football game last year, and then you disappeared because of the weather, but also because of Michigan defense. You can't let that happen this time. Michigan, if you want to win, you've got to be physical. You've got to show that you're not scared. We've heard message boards this week. All the Michigan fans are like, oh my God, we're going to get beat by 50. The season's over, blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that. Who cares? Deal with it. Play on your terms. Run the football. Be physical. You're going to have to win an ugly football game if you're going to win, or Ronnie Bell's going to have to show up and have the game of his life. But you have to play on your terms. You cannot let Ohio State chuck the ball down the field. Look at what Notre Dame did defensively. Look what Penn State did defensively. Play that into your philosophy. Come out there with something different that they haven't seen. Play with a reckless abandon. I know we hear this whole thing of like, Jim Harbaugh's great with his speeches. Well, Jim, you're going to have to give a heck of a speech, and really teams have to buy in and play your best game, because the committee also has a lot of doubts. If Michigan loses this football game and by more than a touchdown, you're probably out of the playoff and there's no chance for you to get in. If Ohio State loses, especially in a close situation, there's a viable option that Michigan and Ohio State both make the playoff. So there's a lot. You have no room for error if you're Michigan. You have got to play your best football game, probably best football game in the past 2 years, maybe even better than what you did last year, because you're on the road and you have more of a hostile environment. When it comes down to it, I think Ohio State boat races Michigan. I don't think it's close. I just don't think Michigan has a passing attack to keep up if this game gets out of control.
Fresh, this is a game that I always take pause for, because Ohio State is limping into this game. I'm very nervous about the injury stuff on it. So there's some reports out there that Mayan Williams looks like he's going to suit up for this game. I think if you're an Ohio State player, you don't miss this game for anything. Like, this game is the game for you. You're going to leave it all out on the field for this one. Same thing goes with Michigan. Blake Corum, if he can go, he's going to go in this game. I think that Blake Corum's banged up, and I think that losing him, how healthy is him? I was talking to my dad about this game coming up, and he said, is Blake Corum 80%? I said, Dad, every player is 80%. Is Blake Corum at a 45%, 50%? Because he's got 245 carries on this season, man. He's been just completely taking a pounding from this entire year. He's been phenomenal. You look at him, he's got 18 touchdowns on the year. He's almost got 1,500 yards. He's been a one-man wrecking crew. And take a look at the defense. While they don't have the same name level, Mike Morris, the linebacker, has been great. You look at Junior Colston, linebacker, Michael Barrett, all those guys have had moments this season where they've played really well for the Wolverines. For Ohio State, though, it's going to come down to whether or not this team can impress their will on them. They want to sit there. I need this game to turn into a track meet, and I need Ohio State to come out firing on all cylinders. If the Buckeyes do that, they're going to take I don't even care if Blake Corum's healthy. You're going to take the ball and you're going to put it in J.J. McCarthy's hands. If they put it in McCarthy's hands, that's when I really like Ohio State's possibilities there. Tommy Eichenberg, the linebackers come out of nowhere. Steel Chambers kind of flip from the running back position this year. Josh Proctor, he's been a great in that secondary as well. Hickman, he's can lower the boom on some people. And then you take a look at guys like Jack Sawyer, JT on the defensive line there. All of those guys have an ability to get to McCarthy, and McCarthy going for his life. There's one interesting thing here, and I've been looking for a lot of things to make me feel better. The first thing I want to see is, and again, Fresh, you're not a wrestling fan, so you won't understand this reference. But every year, there in January, the Royal Rumble happens. And there's always a guy who's been out for injury, and it's like halfway through the Royal Rumble, and his music hit, and the crowd goes nuts. And they pop, and they're going, and they're just screaming crazy. That's what I want when Jackson Smith-Njigba comes out. If Jackson Smith-Njigba comes out on Saturday and is ready to play, with having not played this whole season, I think the crowd loses their mind. I don't care if he's just out there for show, but I think if he is able to just go and just, even if he's a decoy, it's going to be an amazing thing. Harrison, all of those guys, they're going to have to play the game of their life because they're going to really need to show that they're ready to take on top tier talent. Ohio State's been struggling as of late. They haven't. I keep wanting them just go in and dominate an opponent, go in and beat the living trash out of them. I don't think you're going to be able to do that to Michigan. I got a lot of respect for the Wolverines. My brother-in-law is a Wolverine, and last year we talked about he got his first taste of winning this game around all of us as well, and it was nice for him. It was nice for him that year. Let's end that this year. I don't want it to be nice for him again this year. So I'm picking the Buckeyes here. I want Ohio State. I think that they're really going to need to get out in front and put the pressure on Michigan very quickly. I want to see JSN out there. Mayan Williams looks like he's going to play. I don't know much about Travion Henderson. That walking boot scared me a little bit. But Dallas Hayden has kind of come out of nowhere being that third string running back and has performed nicely for them. But Ohio State's got to punch them in the mouth. And you got to punch them in the mouth early, and then you got to counter one more time and hit them again. So this is going to be a big one for the Buckeyes. I love it, but it's time. I mean, it's this time fresh, and whew, I can't wait.
I do have a question for you. Being the resident Ohio State fan, if bad things happen in this game, and the outcome is not desirable to your liking, does Ryan Day's seat get hot after losing 2 in a row?
No, it won't just yet, because here's the thing. He's delivered some really great recruiting classes.
Agreed. Yes.
The only games he's lost are to Michigan. He has the one loss to Oregon last year. That was a little bit disappointing. But in this game, I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I almost also forgot to say, like Jim Knowles was saying, that he's only shown about 30% of his defense this year. So he has some stuff that they have not even put on tape yet that's going to kind of give Michigan some fits. I don't think so, because how spoiled are we as Ohio State fans? Like, think about this for a second here. John Cooper loses his job back in 1999, I believe it was, or maybe it was like right at January of 2000. And Ohio State takes a risk at hiring Jim Tressel. We go through the Jim Tressel years. He delivers the national title. Ohio State consistently wins. We're always in the mix of it. You can say what you want about 07 and 08 against Florida and LSU, but you're at the championship game. I mean, there's only, at that time in the BCS era, only 2 teams went to the championship, and you're one of the 2. Someone's got to lose that game. You're always in the thick of it. Whatever, I don't even want to call it a scandal anymore, because in today's day and age, that even wouldn't have been a blip on the radar.
Not at all.
You go to Luke Fickell, who was a young coach at the time. I think Fickell has proved that he just wasn't ready for that job yet. and has shown that he is actually a pretty darn good coach. And then you go to Urban Meyer. Say what you want, like, love, hate Urban. He gets you another national title, beats the living bejesus out of Michigan year in and year out. And then you transfer from Urban to Ryan Day, who Ryan Day is winning all of these games. Yeah, he's not meeting the level of expectation of being undefeated or maybe not always beat Michigan, but he has you in that conversation for the playoff every single year. I don't think this year his seat would get hot, but I think that there would be some conversations being had. Okay, what is it going to take to beat Michigan? I don't think it's going to be a hot seat per se, but I think that there might be a different type of conversation than there has been in years past.
I mean, I honestly agree with you. I think that there's no reason to get all fired up about Ryan Day, his job candidacy, because we've seen there are numerous head coaches out there in programs that are terrible, and it's a tier thing where now you're a victim of your success. If you go 11-1, that's a terrible year, especially since you didn't just lose to like an Indiana, you lost to your rival and you didn't win a conference championship, and that's where it becomes a pain point. You have to be, I think you hit it right on the spot, like spoiled, where there's certain fan bases where 11-1, you need to sit back and be like, we're 11-1, we're going to New Year's Six Bowl, we are in the conversation for the majority of the year for a national championship. That's success. Because there's only in the end, there's only one team that can win a national title. You have to be fortunate and respectful of what you have in that program, and don't get too greedy, because if you get greedy, then that's where disaster, I think, karma comes into play and beats you down. I mean, 2 in a row to Michigan is nothing to get too mad about. I think if it was 3 in a row or 4, then maybe you start having that talk, especially if that's the only thing keeping you there. But I think Ryan Day's done a great job, and he's, of all things I mentioned, the most impressive was he's changed his offensive philosophy this year a little more focused on the running of the football. You've seen it from the past years, we're a little more pass heavy, especially last year. He learned from last year, I have to run the football, especially when the weather changes, to be able to win in all different elements. If it snows on Saturday, having a stable of running backs and being confident in that running attack is going to be very beneficial.